Yeah.
making sure they don't have to do all that things that's easy to get wrong and very boilerplate stuff. And then we build, tools on top of that, the building blocks, solve the logging problem, solve the onboarding problem, solve, a lot of their liquidity problem. So finally we have USDC on Suite today.
Yeah.
All that problem, right? It's what it takes to make a great developer platform.
This episode is brought to you by Uphold, which is one of the top crypto platforms in the industry. I've been a user of Uphold since 2018. They make it easy to buy, sell, and trade crypto. They have 300 plus cryptocurrencies on their platform, which includes Bitcoin and all the top altcoins. And folks, they do not commingle, they do not lend out your funds. They are 100% reserved, and you can review their transparency report. And they have a lot of great features that make it easy to execute your trades. They also have a great new product called USD interest accounts, which allows you to park your dry powder or your crypto profits and earn up to 4.9% APY. Now, the 4.9% APY is only on balances over $1,000. Below 1,000, it's 2%. But what's great about this product, guys, is there's no lockups, there's no monthly fees, there's no subscriptions, and best of all, it is FDIC insured just like a bank. So if you'd like to learn more about Uphold, visit the link in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and with me today is Evan Cheng, who's the co-founder and CEO of Mysten Labs. Evan, great to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, Evan, I'm super excited to speak with you. Last week we met in person at the SUI event in New York City after mainnet, and SUI has been getting a lot of adoption. There's been a lot of news around this blockchain, and I want to learn more. So really excited to have you on. But let's start with your background. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from, and what's your professional background?
Well, it's a long story, so I don't want to take up all the time. But yeah, I was born in Taiwan. Like NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, to Taiwanese founders, all the rage these days. But I grew up sort of being kind of had the education that allowed me to kind of think freely, kind of a very unusual type of education. So fast forwards, right? So I actually had a very interesting kind of educational background. I didn't finish high school. I tricked my way into college and finished it very quickly, and then later on drop out a PhD program after I wrote four chapters of thesis and just wasn't inspired by my own work and just kind of literally just walk away one day. But anyway, so I spent a number of years doing startup, kind of early in my career that didn't work out. So I think I made 50K out of that startup experience after 7 years, and then I joined Apple. So this is where I started doing kind of some serious compiler work. Um, you know, LLVM is sort of my kind of big accomplishment along with my friend and partner Chris Ladner. So we sort of built something that really had a massive impact on the industry, not just in terms of kind of sort of like the geeky developer tooling kind of work, but also this impact consumer products in a lot of different ways. It's literally running pretty much every smartphone, every smart device these days. Um, then I went on to Facebook,
Mm.
so where I was leading the program language and runtime organization before I got red pilled into going to crypto. So I was sort of looking at Ethereum 2015, 2016, kind of figuring out, got excited about the space, got excited about the opportunity. Given my background, I feel like the industry really need a lot more sort of kind of formal thinking about what programming language for developer tooling, developer environment would look like for smart contract platform, and that was where I really want to get sort of like get involved. So when the Libra project came around, I was just sort of raised my hands.
Mm.
right? So I already sort of like doing a lot of sort of clubs, right? Blockchain club, crypto, people talk crypto inside Facebook. I want to be part of that project, and I end up sort of leading the R&D side of the project.
Wow, that's amazing. So you helped work on Libra, and we know eventually there was some regulation blocking there, right? Some roadblocks that came up from the government. Um, on that note, being at two major companies like Apple and Facebook, giants in the tech space, what do you think, or when do you think they may fully adopt blockchain? Whether it's Facebook putting profiles on the blockchain and we have more verifiable profiles and so forth, or Apple maybe using blockchain for logistics and where they get their different supplies, or integrating stablecoins for payments and so forth. When do you think that may happen?
That's a good question. I don't think anybody knows, right? So when you talk about the biggest companies in the world, they tend to have their business model, whether that fits them, right? So, you take a look at Apple. Apple's is, locking in a lot of way. They want you to be all in the Apple universe, right? Apple device, Apple services. It's like if you use iMessage, right? You want a blue tick, not a green tick. I'm a green tick, right? So there's a lot of these kind of app store they take cuts, right? And same thing, right? To a way on the Google side, perhaps a little bit less so because it's more of advertising kind of business rather, that's where the revenue come from, a little bit less of locking. Uh, I think it all may eventually happen in some way. As you say, it's not like adopting blockchain across the board, like every aspect of their business, but they could offer, as you say, crypto-based payment service because it's more efficiency, logistic could happen. Um, you know, we talk about how blockchain is a coordination kind of solving a lot of coordination problems. So a lot of it is, efficiency, kind of a reduced cost, more automation with, especially with AI, right? You have to imagine everything will be more and more automated rather than sort of still very much human involved in a lot of ways. So timeline, nobody really knows. They are not necessarily going to be the first adopter, right? They're not going to be the first mover. Looks like Google is our partner. They
Mm.
actually are moving much, much more aggressively in terms of looking at the Web3 as a business, especially from the infrastructure side. Apple so far has not shown a lot of interest, but it's every company is different. It comes down to their business model, how they make money, how do they serve their customer, right? So too often time people talk about, sort of building crypto or Web3 consumer products. I think what people missing is, well, you got to empower the builders, right? They have to make money. They have to have a lasting business for them to adopt the technology. So always look at the both sides. Yeah. So I think it will happen, but when, nobody really knows.
Yeah, for sure. And I know one of the biggest use cases, and this is more on the being a fiduciary, many companies are looking to add Bitcoin on their balance sheet to protect their cash reserves from debasement. So that's another avenue. But that in itself, I mean, that's nice, but I'm waiting to see when these companies adopt SUI, or blockchains and just start building on them and so forth. But to your point, no one knows. On the lines of Google, tell us about how you're working with them and, what's their vision that they've shared with you guys.
I think they see this as an emerging kind of market, an emerging technology they want to, sort of be close to. So they, you know, search, right, indexing. We use some of the cloud infrastructure on some of our products. We talk about, for example, ZK logging.
Mm.
So they utilize Google, Gmail, as one of the primary options for the social logging. They're very supportive of that. We talk about a lot of future opportunity as well. Uh, you know, sort of, sort of like some of the security aspects, cybersecurity kind of products that we have done and shown some early POC as well. So all that, right? So it's a long-term kind of a partnership that we intend to explore a lot of options. Oh, also AI, Gemini. We've done uh, sort of AI powered kind of smart contract auditing or
Oh,
bug
wow.
finding tool. You may not have heard much of it, right? We're actually building it, and it's actually finding bugs these days, not just on Sui smart contract, but other smart contract platform as well. So there's a wide variety of kind of projects that we're working on together.
Mm. And I was just listening to a podcast yesterday where they were talking about Google has a lot to lose with its search business due to AI, and obviously integrating blockchain would be very important for them. So it's great to hear that they are making these moves, doing proof of concepts and all that because the disruptions at their door, and they have to adopt this technology sooner than later.
Yeah, you touch on an important word, disruption, right? Because when you ask the questions like who is going to adopt it first, is it Apple, is it Google? Well, it's always going to be probably some of the companies that feel like their business is about to be disrupted, or the smaller company that say, well, here's opportunity for us to disrupt incumbents, or they need the edge, right, to get ahead of the competitors or get ahead of the coming waves. It's always the case, right? You probably heard me talk about this a number of times. It's not just a numbers game.
Mm.
It's always if you're thinking about building sort of a platform of any sort, especially one that's a developer platform, it's a hits business. How many kind of products kind of arrive on our platform that really transform people thinking, transform consumer experience, or turns out enabling a kind of business model shift that allow the builder to make more money or be more competitive or given an edge. That's when things really happen. Right?
Mm.
That's when people get excited about, either the builder or the consumer is like, oh, this is exciting. This is something I want to see more of. And that's when the magic happens.
Oh, absolutely. Now, for those who may not know, give us an overview of SUI and Mysten Labs and essentially what makes SUI different.
Well, Mysten Lab, you probably see us building a ton of different products, right? We're some of the smartest people in their respective domain here with Mysten Labs. We're very dedicated to this mission to really, really make the internet more fair by decentralizing, providing decentralized technology, right? Start with SUI and Wars, and you may have heard us talk about Scion as well.
Yes.
So sort of compute, storage, and networking. Now let's talk about SUI. Um, we set out to build Sui not as a fork or anything, not like following the sort of architecture of the previous blockchains, not because we're like, okay, we have to do something different to attract attention. In fact, we were told, like, why don't you have EVM compatibility? Solidity has won, right? All that sort of thing, which is kind of ignored because we're first principle thinker here, right? We say, okay, what is a blockchain really about, right? What do you see this kind of delivering impact? Well, we think about this is a platform where you want to allow developer to model different kinds of assets. You want them to have these user and developers and builder think about these assets, how they interact with each other, right? Ultimately, we understand this is just really a coordination problem. Anything that looks like a two-sided marketplace, there's a buy side, there's sell side, right? If you think, should be empowered by a blockchain, right?
Mm.
So example is Deepin, right? Example such as Sui, right? Our partner that's just launching. You have excess capacity. I have idle 3D printer. I want to make available, and there's hundreds and thousands of them. At the same time, there's hundreds and thousands or millions of users. Like, okay, I find a cool a model. I want to, kind of realize it into an actual, physical product. Well, okay, let me get on this and find the nearest 3D printer that's available, right? It's two-sided marketplace. And people really, really extend beyond sort of what people think in terms of the usual crypto use cases, speculations, or financial kind of product. But even financial product, you understand there's a lot of kind of inefficiency, right? So you have human getting involved.
Right.
You have people realize bank transfers are relatively slow. Why not use crypto rail, right? And why not have it solving some of the compliance on the complex kind of business problem where we add as well. So all that is happening, right? Gaming, everything's happening. So we realize you got to model this correctly, think in terms of assets. That's the starting point. So there's just, sort of you can look at it as a SUI is a, it's not a account-based model like most other kind of smart contract platform. It's, you know, assets and asset interacting with each other, and assets are type objects, right? Because you want to define clearly what that look like. And to do that, you will also realize, well, you got to make sure all that important information about the assets live on chain. If it's not on chain, then you go back to centralization, right? You got to rely on some centralized party to manipulate that state as the asset undergoing changes, right? So that's important to build as well. And people talk about composability. People talk about interoperability. Well, we want it to be more than protocols talking to each other, right? Because if you think about everything in the real world, it's asset composing with each other, right? I'm literally like showing you an example here. I have a cup with coffee, right? That's two different assets, two different items be composed into one. Now it's a glass with coffee. Uh, so, and that applies to pretty much everything, especially in gaming, everything's hierarchical, composable. Things are constantly changing, and assets are being used to interact with other assets. You know, and that history of the asset. My magic sword in this game was the one that took down the final boss, right? That history better be there on chain that make this particular instance of that sword be much more valuable than others that may not have that history, right? All these things require us to think really, really differently from first principle. So the data model is all objects, right? Then the pipeline of for processing transaction is going to be very different because each one is distinct rather than one giant global state where even reading the states, right? Try to pick out, say, I just want to look at the information about my in-game asset. You can't do that easily on other blockchain because you have to look into the Merkle tree and extract all the information.
Mm.
So this allows us to change the way how you read a blockchain as well, how we think about everything, light nodes and everything. And over time, we also changed how we think about, consensus, right? You don't really need consensus in a lot of cases if you are a single owned object, right? I own the object. I want to, reduce the amount of coffee in it. This doesn't need to be sequenced with other transactions because there's no way other transaction can interfere with it. There's no contention. So we really, really rethink everything from how we process transactions, how the data are stored, how we model the interaction between objects, how we do composability, how we think about kind of a co-composability. We want to enable the client-side composability through programmable transaction blocks. So SUI really is not like any other blockchains out there. Like really, really fundamentally, we don't even produce blocks, right? We
Mm.
produce checkpoints asynchronously. So transaction are processed immediately. It's real time. Things has to be super fast. We also think about not in terms of scalability. We think about elasticity as a, kind of a supply and demands. Uh, that's a little bit wordy answer to your question, but it's a lot. Really is a very, very different kind of way we think about kind of this infrastructure.
I appreciate that detail, and it's very important to get all those details because there's a lot of blockchains out there, right? It's competitive on the layer one space. You have Ethereum, Solana, and so forth. And it's funny enough. Last night I noticed SUI's transaction volume, I believe, surpassed Solana based on some recent data. So that's really great to see. So what are some of the use cases and how folks can utilize the SUI blockchain? Is it tokenization? What are some of the target use cases that maybe or industries that you're going after?
We're going after every industry, and this is the magic. This is the power of developer platform. We really want to open it up to allow developer to build for anything, right? But fundamentally, what a blockchain is good for, right? That we need to understand. We need to build it well. So what is good for is, well, it's a platform for what we talk about coordination a lot, right? We give an example of sort of deepen and two-way in the marketplace. But you also think about in terms of this intermediation, right? Anytime you have middlemen that sort of like sort of extract value out of it, that could be replaced with a blockchain smart contract platform. Everything right now, your human trust intermediary, right? Somebody provide trust. I hold on to your assets. I give you some benefit, but I may extract benefit as well, right? So you're familiar with any kind of content platform that's look like that, right? So they hold on, they help you do discovery, find essentially buyer for your asset that you produce, but they extract sort of value out of it. That is a blockchain's job as well. So obviously, asset tokenization, as you say, because now we model, as I say, right, SUI is all about modeling assets, right? So that's example, and transfers much of that sort of rules enforcement of the asset onto the blockchain is very, very important. So again, we think about everything differently, right? You familiar with the NFT marketplace example where they later on decided not to enforce royalty payments, right? That's because a human is in the middle. Intermediary decided what's beneficial to them. So they discard the rules, right? That should be done by software, smart contract that won't lie to you because or change their mind. That's most important. So really is every industry, right? People thinking primarily about kind of finance, right? DeFi, payment, definitely. Tons working on are being worked on right there, right now. Tons of activities, tons of energy, commerce, right? Once you have payment solved, you have marketplace solved, a lot of commerce use cases, gaming, any kind of sort sharing a resource, I'd be deep in on and on, and on. Pretty much every industry out there can benefit from this technology.
And how is Mysten Labs facilitating to get more developers to build on? Are you working any unique Web3 developer tools and things like that?
Uh, that's our primary focus from the beginning. Ultimately, developers don't want to know how or the lot of complexity underneath, right? I always find it odd, right? This industry forces a lot of complexity onto developer that just want to build products, right? So when I talk about developer, we primarily focus on serving developer build products, right? And that's what we are about. So developer experience has always been got it top of mind, always, and we are the best there. Many example people saying don't want to go back and work on any other kind of blockchain platform. It's not just a language, right? People talk a lot about Move, and Move is exceptionally great. and Sam did an exceptional job, conceptualizing, building, and then growing it, and the team alongside as well. But a platform is much more than just the programming language. It's the tools around it, it's the documentation, it's the support we give to the developer community. It's really the whole system working together, right? Because we are in the business allowing developer to model assets and model the interaction with the asset, we focus so much on that sort of thing, that area. So you can send asset to assets, right? Object to objects, right? You
Right.
can compose objects very simply. We take away the runtime takes away a lot of sort of things that can go wrong, right? You're familiar with all the reentrancy problems. That could be, missing a check for ownership somewhere, right? That sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely, right. So from the beginning, we focus so much on making sure developers don't have foot gun, right? They shoot themselves in the foot,
Yeah.
making sure they don't have to do all that things that's easy to get wrong and very boilerplate stuff. And then we build, tools on top of that, the building blocks, solve the login problem, solve the onboarding problem, solve, a lot of their liquidity problems. So finally we have USDC on Suite today.
Yeah.
All that problem, right? It's what it takes to make a great developer platform.
Let's talk a bit about decentralization and efficiency. Obviously, there's a race among these different blockchains to get to that place where they can be fully decentralized, but without compromising efficiency. How are you guys approaching that? Is it a work in progress? And, I don't know if you may not be able to give away your secret sauce, but I'd love to hear, how you're
Yeah,
approaching that and so that you can be as efficient as possible without compromising decentralization.
yeah. I think there's a fallacy out there, people thinking that's just like decentralization is equal to a number, sort of validators on your network, right? In fact, for proof of stake networks, it's two-third majority that have the stake that make a decision. So a lot of the nodes with some relatively limited stakes don't really get to do much, right? Other than providing redundancy. So I think that's that first. Let's get that out of the way, right?
Mm.
And the other extreme sort of thinking is that every validator needs to run on a BlackBerry, right? So, but that's going too far because you're ultimately limiting what your network can do, right? So, imagine people building internet, thinking that's the way it should go, right? Remember, internet, the network itself was decentralized, the protocol decentralized, but it's a business at the same time, right? You got to be able to run things efficiently. So finding that balance is very important. So for us, right, we want to empower uh, anybody to be able to validate, whether their transactions were being, processed correctly,
Mm.
whether there's fraudulent behaviors going on, whether there may be collusion happening, right? So coming back, right, it's people talk about light nodes, right? How easy it is for anybody to be able to kind of validate that. And then while you're gradually growing the number of validators, nodes, and ensuring they're actively participating in the network, right? Whether that magic number is hundreds or thousands, we'll get there gradually. But it's first, right? You want to make sure the network can grow, can be operated smoothly, and things are happening, and then bring more people in. That you drop, we are dropping, soon we're dropping that requirement to run the nodes, right? So
Mm.
there will be more and more nodes, but done so in a way doesn't impact performance, doesn't impact scalability as well as latency. That's very important. At the same time, adding the tools for users to be able to validate their transactions are being carried out correctly. That's really, really important. Again, we have not magic sauce here since I already talk about it. Sort of because the data model is very different, right? If if I develop a building a game, there's 10,000 users on it. Each one of them has a character. I just want to follow that 10,000 objects that
Mm,
tell me that, you know, what the states are. I don't care about rest of the blockchain,
mm.
how they're changing. So we call that sparse replay, and then we're building a lot of tools around that. So you know, uh, very very different ways of in achieving decentralization.
For sure. And then from a security standpoint, how are you guys approaching that and to make sure things are secure for users and the protecting against vulnerabilities, on the network and so forth?
Such start with the foundation, right? The network protocols much must be scientifically validated by the experts in the right. Imagine TCP/IP was built by group of hacker, then nobody validated these are correct protocol, right? The internet will be on fire, left and right. So you see everything we have done, all the protocol, validated, published at top conferences. Very, very few, if any other, very few has done that. At the same time, engineer them to the, sort of the kind of level of sophistication, the kind of trust that you can trust our engineering output as well. We have some of the best engineers as a result, and we're really, really, sort of the core competency is build the best kind of distributed system, the best runtime for programming language, the best platform, building the tools to enforce, to enable, to make sure these are correct. We talk about a lot about we're using AI to build kind of an auditing tool, internal, bug finding tools to find them as well. So it's the research, it's engineering, it's a design. It's very, very much the design. Like we don't hand wave say, "Oh, trust us, this is correct." Like we prove things are correct. At the
Mhm.
same time, operationally, we're ready, right, to jump on anything. And beyond that, we hope, the ecosystem only as safe as, well, how the builders are doing, right? We're helping the builders a lot, right? Ensuring best practice, right? Making sure they understand security requirements, making sure how to safeguard their assets and their users' assets. Um, yeah, so and again, coming back, right? And we making sure where we being steadfast about okay, making sure you use the right tools and take away a lot of the security concerns in terms of smart contract, but you still need, to follow these practices to ensure there's no logic errors, no mistakes in your code. Yeah, it's a big undertaking. So far, so good, right? Knock on
Mm.
wood, we haven't had any kind of downtime at all, and
Right.
there has been small scales attacks, and but generally the three ecosystems being pretty pretty darn good
Yeah, for
on that front.
sure. No, earlier you mentioned the partnership with Google. Are there other partnerships or folks that, or investors that you want to highlight?
We have some of the best investors, such as ACCZ
Mhm.
Crypto, a lot of other investors. Feel like we are talking to the biggest and the
Yeah.
most well known every day. There's a ton of interest in SUI right now. A lot of them are interested in SUI, the assets. A lot of them are interested in using SUI. This across the board financial industries, consumer commerce, gaming, movie pass is one of those upstart
Yeah.
kind of company that want to challenge the movie industry. We'd love to partner with kind of partners like that, and times 100. There's a lot of
Mhm.
kind of partners I can't talk about today. Uh, some are building consumer products, some are building sort of infrastructure tool for other builders. It's literally it's like mind blowing how much of interest there is. Yeah, we talk about like Three Dots as an example of these kind of upstart, right? Kind of company that want to challenge the status quo. The list goes on and on. I can give a gaming example. Society, super excited. E4C, Final Salvation is launching. We have Chen, a big public company out of Korea building on SUI,
Wow.
dark times, you know, you name it. Right? We have a huge lineup coming.
That's amazing. So Evan, I gotta ask, have you gone back to Facebook or to your friends at Facebook and Apple and knocked on the door saying, "Hey, come to take a look at what I'm building here."
Yeah, it's. I think it's a good question. The very fortunate the Libra project sort of like get us some of the best engineers in the world that's interesting in the space. So actually, a ton of them, I'll say, like some of the pretty much all the best have joined Mysten, working on SUI and Wars and more. So we're very lucky. I don't have to go back to Facebook and knock on people's door and say, "Are you interested in blockchain?" Uh, in fact, a lot of people don't understand this industry, right? I think the elephant in the room is the people skeptical, or outright sort of anti blockchain crypto. That's very unfortunate.
Mm.
So I do have friends and former colleagues like, why are you doing this, right? This seems like crazy world you're in. It's like, trust me, right? You know what I've done in my career. I'm not here for a quick buck or
Mm.
doing something that's sketchy. So it's a mix. Right? People now knows what I've been doing. A lot of them are kind of are very impressed and supporting us. Some are skeptical, but it's our job to prove to the world this is real and this deliver value to the world. And I think that will all change.
So on that note, and I've experienced that skepticism myself, right, in telling people about the technology. And look, human beings are cynics, and change is hard for them, right? You're disrupting, you're doing something against the grain. It's hard, and eventually, they learn and they come around, and we have this community knowledge that grows. But do you think the token dynamic, and this, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but that blinds people to the actual technology. Like if they realize what this is on top of the internet, their mindset would be different.
Yeah, I think I mean old enough to remember .com, right? Same
Mhm.
thing. It's a great technology, it's transformative. The web, it's obvious it's going to happen. Guess what? The first iteration, first adoption is, a lot of them are not there for the right reason,
Yeah.
and sometimes almost not their own fault, right? To the point, right? The expectation changes and the sort of the zeal, the fervor, changes how people think, right? Like it's we heard the saying, right? Money corrupts, right? I think in this space, let's be honest with ourselves, we've seen those kind of behavior as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, you don't really need to build something. You can just like vaporware, right? Announce vaporware day in, day out, and then try to pump your token. That's just bad, right? You probably seen every time we say something is coming, they're either like running now in or very soon, right? We just don't do that, but not
Right.
everybody does that, right? And there's some scams, so unfortunately, right? And there's sometimes just the security issue, right? Smart
Mhm.
contract hacks, right? Which attract a lot of bad actors,
Yeah.
rug pulls, right? Those are really human, kind of doing bad things. It's all there, right? We just got to naturally, as we grow up, matures and clean up, more adoptions happen. They will draw out those bad actors, and as the industry gets better, gets smarter about what to do, what not to do, naturally they will go away, right? So
Mhm.
even internet today is filled with scams and bad
Oh yeah.
actors. A lot of things are spammy. I get
Right.
hundreds of spams on everything, every platform, every day. And but it's like the good is way outweighs the bad, right? We just need to get there. And then all the attitude towards this industry will change. I think we're getting closer and closer, and that's exciting. That's super exciting. And I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And I think since when you got in, I got in 2016, we've matured so much. The level of builders and participants are just next level. Wall Street, investment banks, stock markets, they're all here looking to build this technology. So been an incredible journey so far. What's on your roadmap for the remainder of 2024 and early 2025, as much as you can share with us?
Um, yeah, so on the Sui side, we just keep on making it better. We everybody heard about Missetti and everybody's posting screenshots of how fast it swaps on Sui are. Well, people probably don't realize Missetti is not done. We're about to get even faster, continue to get faster, continue to get more, sort of more scalable, putting a lot of our design and vision into practice, so to speak, hardening Sui, the platform, continue to improve upon the developer experience, building more building blocks. People get follow, for example, Costas, right? You get all the alphas and stuff he's working on, these incredible building blocks that allow new use cases that it just, people cannot even imagine them today. Some of them, right, on-chain randomness, right, then taking a step further, like, sort of time capsule type of use case, private NFTs, all these use cases, all these building blocks are being built. Um, Beyond that, right, on the product side, Stash, we really haven't done a lot on the payment side with Stash yet. Lots more coming. The wallet will continue to get better. A lot of other third-party wallets, which are super exciting, are coming as well. We have, but then let's talk about the big thing, Words, right? The team is very, very, very busy building Words. We're about to hit testnet, I think, very, very soon. So that's a little bit alpha there. And I think we have already had petabytes of like data being stored on many petabyte on the DevNet, right? So we're moving on to the next phase because now we're seeing the demand from developers. Okay,
Mm.
now imagine building a Web2 product where you can only use the RAM, right? And that's like building a Web3 product only using the blockchain with some on-chain storage, at least on Sui. On the other, you can't even do any kind of on-chain storage. Now we have a system for you to store large amount of data, uh, to be able to host your front end, your website on decentralized storage or decentralized hosting. Then you no longer have to worry about is somebody tinkering with my app, right? My front end to trick user. That's happened, right? Again, if you are building a decentralized product, you have a centralized attack vector, it's going to be exploited, right? So we're solving more and more problem, starting with three, and now we're focusing a lot on building walls, get it ready pretty soon, and lots of other things. Cyan, you probably saw the news about adoption of Cyan.
Mm.
Again, like hardening the system, make it really mission critical that cannot be taken down by any actor. And lots of things we cannot talk about. Yeah, we're just running as fast as we can. Keep on building.
That's exciting. And congrats on all the success. I did want to get your thoughts on the larger crypto market and all the things that have been happening there. Um, and I don't know if this relates to a question I asked you earlier, but would you say, Web 1.0, the transition to 2.0 happened in the early 2000s? And when do you think the transition of Web 2 to Web 3 may happen? I know we're not an exact date, but is it within the next 5 years or the next 10 years?
It's a good question. Like anything in the world, there seems to be this sort of like going this way, then going back way, right? So you sort of always correct course, and then you kind of swing back and forth a few times. It's because it's hard, and it's because it's uneasy, right? Not easy because you're challenging the status quo. The internet goes from peer to peer, right? Very much protocol level to centralization because, well, it's hard to build
Mm.
peer-to-peer, hard to scale, And then now we are saying, oh my God, like look at how bad it is. Centralization causes all this problem, but most people don't know how to solve it. So those of us are working, we are working hard to solve that, but it requires adoption. So it's going to be constant battle back and forth. I don't think there's going to be a moment where everybody's just going to say, well, whoa, now we're in Web3 era.
Right.
It's a gradual thing, it's adoption, and then we go vertical. Where are we? We are very much adopting Web3 right now. It's happening, it's early. We're seeing the example of consumer product that's built with crypto or use blockchains already. It's just going to accelerate. And when does it go vertical? Yeah, I agree. It's going to be the next few years. That's no doubt in my mind that's happening. Like to say, like the series of arrival is play a big part in that, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the partners that come to us is like finally something that could work at our scale, finally something that fits how we think about building products, finally something that solve a platform that solve all these kind of complex problem we have. So we believe it's very, very soon, and it's well, I like to think again, it's going to first come on SUI, just based on sort of what I've seen, what I see my partners are our partners are building. Yeah, it's going to happen before you know it, and they're just going to go pure vertical.
For sure. And do you also feel like demographics plays a part in that, meaning that the boomers not maybe not as much adoption on that front, but the younger generations, they're in a digital world, the adoption is gonna be faster for them, and that they can spark the adoption because there's gonna be cool apps that they want to use integrated with AI and blockchain and so forth.
Hey, some boomers are actually on the front, leading the charge. Say, don't forget.
Yeah.
Again, it's a state of mind, right? It's a lot less to do with the age. Absolutely. The younger generations, the expectations are very, very different. A lot of them are feeling disenfranchised, right? Say they want to have an agency, they want to own what what they produce. They want to be their own sort of boss, right? They want to be in control of everything, and that very much fits in the Web3 thinking. And all the cool stuff, right? They come to sort of expect out there, right? Very much in this world. They're very, very comfortable and building community around meme coins, right? So that's something that's new. We never thought about it, right? So until well, maybe the first indication was the GameStop
Yes.
scenario. That's very much like a community belonging type of scenario. And yes, there's all kinds of meme coins people talk about all the time. But yeah, that's one example. So NFT was another example. There was a bit of a speculative bubble, but it's still there, right? People collect things and they want to feel like part of a community, and that's very much the case. Automation, everything has got to be faster,
Yeah.
right? They don't want to deal with like people don't even want to get on the phone to call. I mean, I'm like that. I hate talking to human, right? Can I just type a few things, get things done, right? Automation, everything's got to be faster, smoother, right? Trust. There's less and less trust in centralized entities, right? Even higher education, governments, big business. You just kind of people are like this generation is like, are they really trying to help me, or I just don't have a choice. I have to trust them, right? I really don't like that. So yes, absolutely. The mental model, the thinking has really, really changed so dramatically, so fundamentally. It's gonna like, speed up the adoption for sure.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum? Pretty amazing. You have all the big Wall Street firms, BlackRock and so forth, issuing, and they've had significant success.
Yeah, it's a commercialization, is the institutionalization of the asset class, and it's natural, it's welcome, it's part of the growth, it's part of the that's how industry become mature.
Yes.
So the market dynamic has changed, a lot of pattern has changed, but by and large, it's going to be more welcome. It's part of the process. It's good. And
Mm.
also Sweet, right? Sweet getting a ton of attention from the same players. Some of them out of left field, we didn't know they're coming, right? Grayscale, we didn't know they're interested in building a Sweet product, and they built it and announced it before we even knew. At first I thought it's like somebody's pulling my leg. Surely they talk to us before announcing their product. No, yeah, but that's who we are now. Talk about just the market force is going to lead us, where it want to lead us, and it's welcome. It's all part of it.
For sure.
I
And
expect the process.
on the other side of that, I think a lot of folks are waiting for clear legislation, not necessarily that we want a ton of regulation, but we want balanced regulations. Like the United States got it right with the internet, and that created a lot of jobs, a lot of great companies, a lot of wealth. Um, and there was a bill that made it out of the House this year, Fit 21. They're waiting to get it through the Senate. It seems like this may happen in 2025. It can help put the United States back in the race, so to speak, because a lot of jurisdictions are moving ahead, the EU, Dubai, and so forth. What are your thoughts, and are you optimistic we may see some sort of legislation in 2025?
I am very optimistic because what you're seeing is understanding is happening. That both sides, both parties, seems like it's a topic they pay attention to, more broadly, and two, they're much more educated, much more understanding. The nuance understanding is much more nuanced rather than like good, 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 bad, 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 right? It's really like they thinking things through and not try to model after, sort of, other things, other products, other industry that may at this very, very high level look similar, but actually very different. So it's all welcome,
Mm.
sort of development. Definitely we're paying close attention to it, but generally we're very, very optimistic. 2025 is going to be the year where we're going to get a lot more clarity on the regulatory front.
Mm. Evan, I got some wrap-up questions here. I know we're a little bit over time. First, if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be?
Oh boy. I don't think this is going to be one thing, right? It's like if I have a metaverse, right, and I'm a huge, huge sort of both science fiction as well as sort of fantasy,
Mm.
the Lord of the Ring type of fans. I want to see both, right? And I can take all my stuff and jump between these different worlds and stuff is going to be still there, right? That's what we're looking for, the real metaverse. That's, where I am who I am. I'm not starting over when I join a new world. I want to see everything that I build, I earned, uh, come with me, and they may just look different or function differently, right? That's sort of like the holy grail, right? I think Ready Player One. Everybody knows about it, right? That's the world I want, but not just purely kind of science fiction.
Mm. Uh,
So yeah.
I love it. Rapid fire questions. Favorite food,
Sushi.
favorite musician or band?
Oh boy. I'm more of a classical kind of person, so there's no favorite band. It's the Bernstein. I was one of my favorite conductor. Would have loved to see him like conduct one of the famous orchestra pieces. If I have to choose somebody who's more of a recent and pop artist, Maroon 5 is one of my favorites. There are many other. That's a hard question for me.
Well, another hard one. Favorite movie.
Uh, that may sound a little bit Shawshank Redemption.
That's a good movie. Favorite book.
We just talked about it, Ready Player
Oh
One.
yeah.
It's a lot of got me thinking about the true meaning of metaverse, what I want to see in the future. I have lots and lots of favorite book, but that one seems really relevant here.
When you're not working at Mysten Labs, what are you doing for fun?
Um, big audiophile. I listen to music that's sort of I always call it the world's most expensive way for simple to enjoy a simple pleasure. The simple pleasure of listening to music and relax and let my mind wanders. But I want that, sort of like the very, very high quality. Yeah, that's what I enjoy.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Pleasure chatting with you.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I had fun.